Welcome to the show. Listen, I'm so glad that you could join us today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. As you can see, we're in the new studio. The Dream Studio is what I call it. Listen, this is Women's History Month, and we are celebrating it with some phenomenal women. Our guest today is none other than Riecy G, the #1 on-air personality from Z93. So I just want you to sit back, relax, and enjoy because it's coming up next.
The Cecil Williams South Carolina Civil Rights Museum is the Palmetto State's first and only museum. It honors a generation of people, black and white, throughout the state of South Carolina who deserve to be remembered for their unselfish commitments and sacrifices. Enjoy an immersive and entertaining virtual tour. For more information, visit www.cecilwilliams.com.
Hello everybody, it's Finkley of the Michael Finkley Show, and you're watching Gold right now. Why? You're watching the Tammy Show. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the show. I told you we've got a great guest on the show today, but I forgot to mention, when we start out, we talk about being intentional. And this year, I have dedicated the show to being intentional, but I've dedicated my life to being intentional about everything that God wants me to do and what he's purposed me to do. But when I tell you we've got a special guest, so let me tell you about this beautiful lady. She is the number one on air radio personality, midday for Z93 Jams. She also has a beautiful daughter, Cheyenne. She's a devoted mother. She has Riecy Styles. I'm telling you, she is phenomenal. When I say amazing, and guess what? She's from Queens, New York, and it's a pleasure to have none other than Riecy G on the Tammy Show. How are you, Riecy?
I am well. How are you?
I am doing well. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, you look so fabulous today as always.
I'm trying to match your energy.
Girl, please.
Oh,
I love it. I love it. And that's what it's all about, being phenomenal. And when we talked earlier, you talk about Women's History Month and you honor all these beautiful women. But I wanted to make sure that you were honored as well because you've done so much in the community. I've known you for over 20-something years.
Absolutely.
So, Riecy, when someone comes up to you and they don't know who you are, but they hear Riecy G, and somebody says, who are you? Who is Riecy G?
Like you said, I'm a mother, try to commit myself to the community, business owner, devoted radio personality. I did not think that I would be doing this, but I am and have done it in radio for 24 years.
That's right.
On the air for 15, 16.
Yeah.
So
I remember that.
Yeah. You remember me from my early days.
Yeah, from the early days. So when we talk about your career, we talk about who you are now. What was your biggest dream as a child growing up?
Wow. I had so many of what I wanted to do and what I wanted to be. I always wanted to work in the film industry, the motion picture industry. And I actually did that right after college.
Really?
Very briefly. So, I saw myself following in that dream. Mm-hmm. Also, fashion has always been a thing of mine. Growing up in New York, especially during the 90s and seeing all of the fabulous fashion from that era and the music and how it coincided with each other. Fashion, I always had a love for it. But being in the film industry, working behind the scenes in film production, never wanted to be in front of the camera. Always wanted to be behind the camera. And I did that. And I worked on a few films right here in Charleston, in the Low Country.
Really? The Army's Wives and
way before that.
Way before that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Late 90s, early 2000s, I worked on a film called The Hundley, about obviously the Hundley.
Yes,
I worked on that. I did some brief work on the Patriot, Mel Gibson movie. And then I did some independent films that I worked film production, location, office management, PA, the basic entry level positions.
Wow. So what was the defining moment when you thought about, being this radio personality? How did that come about?
That did not come about. It just happened. Because initially at the time when I was working in film, it wasn't really prevalent here in the Low Country area. There wasn't any incentives for film production companies to come to the state of South Carolina.
Right.
So if you really wanted to do and make it big, or just really be active working in the film production industry, you had to go to either New York, LA, and then you travel all over the country for location shots and things like that. So at the time, my daughter was very young. She was a baby, like a toddler. And when you work in that industry, you work 6 days a week, 12 plus hours a day for months at a time. And then when you're lucky, you'll pick up the next production. So I knew it would have me all over the country if I'm lucky, or just stationary in New York or LA, and maybe even different parts of the world. And my mom, bless her soul, she was taking care of my mother and my daughter. So I really didn't have to worry about her.
Right.
But I was like, you know what? I think I want to stay and raise her. I don't want to be traveling all over the country and not be in her life like that.
Right.
So I went to New York and I gave myself 2 weeks. I stayed with my cousin and I said, if I don't find a production job in New York in 2 weeks, I'm coming back to South Carolina and I'm just giving up working in the film industry, at least until she becomes a teenager.
Right.
And 2 weeks came, and the night before I was supposed to leave to come back, I got a call. But I was already packed, I already had it in my mind, I was done. And I probably would have stayed, but the call was for like a day player. So it was like temporary, filling in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know if I want to stay for a day player, although it could have made connections and led to something else. I just said, no, I'm done.
Wow.
And so I came back down here and I just put it in God's hands. I said, I want to work in something in the entertainment industry some way, somehow. Lord, just do your work.
And he did it.
And he did. So I came into working in radio by working in production, driving the vans, like when you go and you see the radio station and they setting up the tables. So I was a promo tech. And actually DJ Cass was the one that kind of helped me get into that position, along with another radio legend and great, Terry Banks.
Yeah, Terry Banks, that's right.
And so I did that. And then I realized, I was like, oh, this is not really you work whenever there's work. You don't work every day.
Right.
It's part-time. And so I just did that. And I was like, I don't know if I'm be able to do this anymore. I have a daughter. I can't be working whenever it's convenient. I have to work every day. And so the promotions manager at the time, he was like, well, I'll have you come and work in the office with me and assist me. And I did that. And 6 months later, I was the interim promotions director because he was out with an injury. And then a year later, I became the promotions director.
Wow. Talk about being intentional. See, when you had it in your mind that at the time you said, okay, I'm not going to do film, but I'm going to be intentional about raising my daughter.
Yes.
And moving back to South Carolina, as we know, you're from Queens, of course, ladies and gentlemen. We talk about her being from Queens. But moving back to South Carolina and being able to take care of your daughter, how did you make that transition so that you were able to take care of her while you were being a promotional director, the promotions director? What was it that made you, say, okay, I can do this?
The backbone of almost all of us, Mom.
Yeah.
Because I knew she was going to be in good hands, and she was. And being in that position, I worked 40 to 60 hours a week at times. So I was, even though I was here, I still wasn't around, but I knew she was in good hands.
Right.
And so that was able to allow me to not really be able to pursue my first dream and first love, but something that was similar, that was rewarding still, and somewhat in that same industry, entertainment and being around music. So she allowed me to be able to do that. I didn't have to worry about it at all. Like, if she was going on vacation, she made sure to find who was going to be watching her while I was at work. I didn't have to do anything. And, it was amazing that she was able to be there for me to allow me to do what I need to do. And I didn't have to worry about my daughter and who was caring for her, because I knew Mom was caring for her.
Right. Another phenomenal woman.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
as we're talking about Women's History Month and talking about mothers, I know your mother was very special to you. May God rest her soul. And I want to get into the business owner part, because that's where Riecy Styles comes in. Talk about the boutique.
Yeah, just relaunched it in October of last year. I initially launched in March of 2021. Yeah, March of 2021. And it just happened. Like I said, fashion was always a dream of mine. Well, I've always had a love for it. And I would post some of the things that I wanted to sell out of my closet, and it would sell. And I would go out and people were like, oh, I love what you have on. And it just kind of came to me like, hey, well, maybe I can get into selling clothes and fashion. And so I started doing the research for it and realized, okay, it's going to take some work. But I
Put the work in.
And got the information and what I needed. And I launched it March of 2021.
Wow.
But at that time, my mom, who I did not know at the time, was terminally ill. She had multiple heart conditions. Her health started to decline, and I was her primary caregiver. So she ultimately passed 2 months later in May of 2021. So between March and May was countless days going to the emergency, taking her to the emergency room, hours sitting in the emergency room, days turned into weeks into the hospital. She ultimately was in ICU at one point, and she ultimately came home after a month or two in the hospital, and she passed away at home.
Wow.
Yeah.
But she passed away with you.
With her family,
right there.
Place where she needs to be.
You know, so when we talk about building your business, and I know that you mentioned to me earlier when we were talking that you kind of stepped away from the business, and then you said you did that because of the grief. So what was it that helped you be able to transition where you said, okay, now I'm really going to do this?
God. And I think my mom up there working it out for me because, you know, just dealing with the grief and just closing out her affairs and just dealing with all of that. And not only that, going into full-time mode, taking care of my dad, who became a widower after 50-something years with his wife. So I believe in broken heart syndrome. And I didn't want that for him. So myself, my siblings, my family, we made sure we guarded him. But obviously I took on a role of making sure, because that's just how I am. And, you know, just dealing with that and being overwhelmed with all of that, working and doing what I have to do, I was just like, you know, I don't think I'm gonna do this again. And all that inventory that was just sitting there, you know, I just started, I just launched it. I really didn't get to do anything with it. And I just said sometimes, I was like, I'm just gonna sell this off and move on from it. Because I just didn't have that desire, that passion wasn't there anymore. And then, I don't know, just last year.
Angel.
Yeah, things just started working out and the excitement came, and I don't even know what really triggered it. And I was like, well, maybe I need to try this again. And so I said, well, you know what, if I'm gonna do it big, so to say. So I went to LA, and where the fashion district is, and spent a week out there, and things just started coming together and working out. But it's been a journey, and I relaunched, had an official relaunch party in October of last year. And then I just recently, I did fashion shows since then. And so just trying to figure out what my niche is and getting into the groove and what's going to work best for me and how I can take it to the next level.
And, you know, I'm going to ask you this question before we take a break, but when you think about all the grief that you went through and trying to take care of your father and all, what would you say to women now as we are celebrating Women's History Month? What would you say to women now about taking care of themselves and really getting the help, seeking the help, especially when you go through grief, whether it's a loss of a job, loss of a parent, you know, what would you say to a woman now? What would you want to say to them?
You know, as everybody says, take time. It's your own process. Don't lose yourself in it, though. You know, it's really hard because everyone's journey is going to be different. And cry. Embrace your emotions, the good, the bad, the ugly. Give yourself grace, give yourself patience, and give yourself time. Because it's going to take time in your own time. There's no particular timeline. Obviously, we've heard that with grief, and it really isn't. Try not to overwhelm yourself. Accept help when you can. Because sometimes when we just are the ones that feel like not so much we can do everything or we're superwoman, that's just who we are. Exactly. We're nurturers, we want to help, we want to support, we want to take care of everyone and everybody. But sometimes when you're that person, people see you as strong and they don't realize that you need a little comfort, you need some support. That's right. You know. That's right. And taking that time out for yourself. Yeah. And once again, just having grace with yourself and digging deep into your spirituality and know that God got you. He's going to bring you through it. It's going to be some hard days, but you'll get through it. And the journey never ends, you know, the grief process. My brother, he passed away in 1996. Next year will be 20 years. And for my birthday last year, I cried because I missed him so.
I did the same thing for my daddy,
Yeah.
who left here in 1996.
Yeah.
In November 1996, and I found myself doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And so, I'm just saying that because we're talking about Women's History Month, but what people don't understand is they see somebody like you. You're on top of the world. You're doing it. You're number one. But what they don't see is that you, even though you show that strong sense, that courageous woman, there's still that little girl that needs to be nurtured. There's still that woman that needs to be nurtured and cared for. And so I want other women to really understand that there is more to us.
Yes.
And there's more that we need to do for us. When you talk about, God, I love the Lord. I tell people that I love the Lord. I jump and shout all day long. And we need that in our lives.
Yes.
And I'm not apologetic about it at all.
No.
I'm unapologetic about talking about what God can do and what God has done in our life. So thank you so much for sharing that, Riecy.
No, it brought me a long way. I mean, I literally was going through grief, but every day I get on the radio and I'm motivating other people.
Yes.
And sometimes I'm like, I couldn't have did that on my own.
And see, Mom is that angel.
That's it.
Tapping you
Oh,
on the
that's
shoulder.
it. That's it.
She's that
And
angel.
it's not long after she passed away, and I know the Lord spoke to me, and it was just random. I don't know what I was doing, and the Lord spoke to me and said, "You took care of your mom in life. She's going to take care of you in death."
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I believe it was that because it didn't come to me like, "Oh, I took care of my mom in life. She's going to take care of it." It was like somebody was speaking to me, but no one else was in the room. And I feel it, I see it, I believe it, and it's happening. I said, my mom along with God, big God, they're doing big things for me.
Big things.
It's just the beginning. So I relaunched the business last year. Really, last year was the year I felt like I was getting back into life and back into myself. And so I said last year, the things that I set out to do for it didn't really happen. And I started to get a little discouraged at the end of last year. And then I said, you know what? No, that was just me setting the foundation. This year is the year to build upon it.
That's right.
So build.
And that's what you're doing.
Build.
That's what you're doing. Listen, Riecy, we're going to take a break. We're going to take a break, folks, and we're going to be right back. Stay tuned.
The Orangeburg County Conference Center supports downtown Orangeburg and our surrounding communities. The 6,000 plus square foot space is ideal for groups of up to 400 people attending corporate meetings, conventions, workshops, and special events. Conference Center staff are inspired to ensure that everyone can enjoy the modern amenities. State-of-the-art ballroom that accommodates up to 400 guests banquet style and 430 guests theater style. A warming kitchen with hot boxes, ice machine, refrigerator, freezer, and counter space. A lobby that accommodates 150 guests with special events outdoors. The comfortable outdoor amphitheater has a video wall and seating. Adjacent to the amphitheater is 12,000 plus square feet of green space that extends events outside, plus complimentary on-site event parking and additional parking across the street. Your event can take place all in one spectacular location. We welcome your special event in Orangeburg.
Hey, you're watching The Tammy Show. And remember to keep it cool with me, AC.
Welcome back to the show. If you missed the show earlier and you're just joining us, I'm here with Riecy G. This is Women's History Month, and we are talking with the number one on-air personality for the midday show on Z93 Jams. I like saying that. Z93 Jams. Riecy, thank you again for being on the show. We talked about your mother. We've talked about grief. We've talked about your career, but I want to find out this on-air personality. What is it like going into the studio every day? People ask me that.
Yeah, well, it's just I always want to make sure, my goal is to make sure I'm motivating people with my daily motivation, which is huge. Like, I'll see people in the streets and they're like, thank you for what you said. It's not like because I gave them a chance to win tickets or whatever. It's always that. And just making sure I'm providing them with the most up-to-date, relevant information for our community, what's going on with the news, locally, just being a wealth of information that they can get to and hear outside of the music and having that balance, because that's important to me. When I first started on the air, like I said, I was behind the scenes, and it was something I did not want to do at all. And as I was doing marketing and promotions for the radio station, Terry Bates, who was the program director at the time, was like, "You're going to get on the air." I was like, "No, I'm not." He was like, "Yes, you are." And, I'm still relatively young and fresh out of New York, so I had that attitude. You're not going to tell me what to do. I'm not doing that. I don't want to do that. You ain't going to make me do it. Right. And he just kept hounding me. I was like, okay, I'll do it. Leave me alone. And so eventually I landed doing this midday shift that I'm doing now, and I hated it. I did not. Wow. I used to hate coming to work every day. I was like, I do not want to do this. Like, I literally did not like doing it.
Is that because you feel like you're an introvert?
No, I just wasn't interested. I wasn't interested in that. I enjoyed doing what I was doing, like behind the scenes, creating contests, promotions, and all of that. That was just what I enjoyed doing. Mm-hmm. Is it my first time in front of a camera? No, I've always gotten pulled. I always want to be behind the sne's, but I always get getting pulled in frond of the camera. I used to do some modeling, some print modeling, things like that. Yeah. So I hated coming to work every day. You have people I just didn't like. And I didn't put a lot of energy or effort into it. I was just like, okay, I'll just do it, whatever. And he told me, he said, you don't have to do the motivation, because the motivation was something that was already done with previous one-in personalities, Deja D.
Right, Deja.
Yeah.
Oh, our friend Deja. All the movies.
That's it, doing big things.
Yes.
And he said, you don't have to do that. And I was like, no, because people need motivation. I need motivation on a daily basis. So I said, people definitely need it. And so I always make sure that I'm trying to speak to people where they may be at in life. So if it's something that may have happened to me, or I may be going through it, somebody I know may be going through it, I'm not going to share that this is my issue or this is someone's issue. But I'm like, surely if I am or someone I know is going through it, somebody else is probably going through it too. So then I try to find motivation to speak on that. And I think that's why it speaks to so many people.
And it helps you
because
it's healing for you.
Yeah, what I always say, sometimes I'll say, as I'm motivating you, I'm motivating myself.
Hello, come on.
Even if it's nothing I'm dealing with,
That's right.
And I try to make sure, and I always pray, I say, God, give me the right thing to say to people that can help, uplift them and motivate them. And I've had some people tell me some things that, till this day, I'm like, I don't know, I'm like, really? I can't believe it. Like, I've had people call me from prison, literally doing life in prison, be able to listen. I helped them. I had somebody to tell me that I prevented them from taking their own lives, just something they say. And I hear a lot of people will tell me at times, God had you say that because that's what I needed to hear. And I hear that a lot. And so I don't take that lightly. So I understand that there's a charge over me to make sure that I'm encouraging people, not only with motivation, but just like I said, encouraging people what's going on in our community and locally, news-wise, and nationally, news-wise. I want to make sure that we're informed as a people.
Exactly.
So that's, but it didn't start out like that. It was just the motivation that kind of really started from the beginning for me. And then when I started realizing, like, people would call in and they was like liking me, and I was like, girl, I was like, they really like me.
They love you, girl. We love Riecy G.
Thank you. And that's what kind of got me to really dig my heels into it and say, well, hey, I guess they like what I'm doing. So let me take this serious and really put in work.
That's right.
And that's what I've been doing. And I've been blessed to be able to do it for so many years. And just astounds me every time that I'm like, oh, you're number one. And across the board and multiple demographics. And I'm like, wow. And it really warms my heart. It's a humbling experience to know that people, take time out of their day to tune in.
So when we talk about it, you're talking about this and thinking about this, what is your biggest accomplishment?
In professional
or personal, whichever one you want to talk about, or both.
Biggest accomplishment would be my daughter, because I gave up my dream and my career for her. And I always said, if she just does well in life, then I'm okay. I'm happy. I'm happy giving up my life.
All right, Shine, till you hear that.
That's it. Yeah, and I said, if she does well, then it's worth it. I have no regrets that I didn't pursue because she didn't ask to be here.
Right.
She came into this world, and I wanted to give her the best life that I could possibly give her an opportunity and chance. and she's done well. And she graduated college, USC.
Go ahead, girl.
She's currently in her she's in grad school,
Masters.
in her master's, and she is the communications coordinator for the town of Kiowa. So she's doing really well.
Really?
Yes.
All right.
So I'm proud of her.
Yeah.
As long as she continues on
Come
that road,
on.
then it's all good. So she would definitely be my biggest accomplishment.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So if you had an opportunity to talk to your younger self, what would you tell your younger self now?
To enjoy where I was at in life. Don't rush it, as we always tell all the kids. Like I told my daughter, stop rushing to be older, but but appreciating where you're at in life, appreciating the journey, taking advantage of all of the opportunities that come your way. Stay focused. You know, growing up in New York, in the time I did, and it was a lot of distractions out there.
Yes, yes.
Take life seriously. You know, even when you're younger, you know, like I see a lot of young kids that are taking life seriously. You know, you still want to enjoy your youth and have fun, but you still want to prioritize things. So I was just trying to prioritize things a little bit more.
That's right.
Yeah.
So what is Riecy's style? What ultimately will you be doing with Riecy's style? What is the end goal?
The end goal, once again, it goes back to my daughter. I always said I want to build something nice for her.
A legacy.
A legacy, and I want her to be able to work for herself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she has those degrees, and that'd be amazing. And that business acumen to grow the business, but also to get back, because I used to have a passion to design. And I used to, you know, come up with my own designs. So ultimately, that's why I call it Riecy Styles, because part of it is because it's styles that I would wear. You know, people like my style. So here's different styles.
Yeah, right.
But also, here's my styles
Mhm.
that I created. And that's ultimately the dream that I have for that business.
All right. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So what would you tell most of the women now who are thinking about going into business? What advice would you give to them?
I don't know, because I'm still learning. Yeah, just, you know, become really knowledgeable about everything, you know. Take advantage of the tools and the resources that are out there. I'm learning to do that myself now.
Mm-hmm.
And just really just make sure you're doing it from the heart. You know, it's something that you love to do, because you'll thrive in that, you know, and set aside certain time, because it's difficult for me at times to multitask or juggle it all, because radio, while I'm on the air Monday through Friday from 10 to 3, I work outside of that time frame. Radio calls, you know, so I have to put that aside. So just learning how to be able to juggle it all if you're trying to still have your career but build a business on the well, I'm gonna say on the side, but on the side for
Right. Start on the side, and then it becomes.
And we have so many women that are doing that.
Exactly.
So many people that are doing that in this day and age. It's important to do that. So just really getting the resources, utilizing the help that's out there. We can do it all, but we can't do it all. Because that's me. I can do it all, but I can't do it all. I'm only one person.
That's right.
And so I'm learning that right now too, to like let things go and allow people to help you that want to help you.
And how to say no.
And how to say no. And how to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
How to say yes.
Yeah.
You know.
Wow. Riecy, you know, it's been a pleasure. My last question that I want to ask you about, when we talk about what's next for Riecy? For Riecy G.
Riecy G. Well, you know, I'd like to transition into possibly TV or something. You know,
Come on.
getting back on you know, I did a little teeny time. I did infomercials for that was when the personality types came out.
Yes.
And I did an infomercial with that. I was a wife, and I had the dominant personality type. So I did that infomercial. I did a few local commercials.
So acting.
Yeah, I get
Some acting.
I don't know about acting. Just something with TV.
Okay.
Something with TV.
I get that.
You know, I did a little some of what you're doing. I did that. It's called Riecy G on the Real, like a little podcast. Started
I
that.
remember that.
Yeah, started that a few years back. Once again, I can do it all, but I can't. And it's just building the right team around. So I like to get back into doing that, because I'm very passionate about community affair shows like what you're doing, such as yourself, and just really speaking to people in our community, because there's a wealth of information and resources out there that is, a lot of us don't know about because we don't have access to it. So that's why I do the Women's History Month. I do the Black History Month Spotlight, because there's so many people out here that are doing amazing things, and they have knowledge and they have the resources and the services that can help us as a people and grow individually and collectively. So that is something I want to dabble back into doing again. It's just really, I'm really passionate about that.
Okay. I'm sitting here. My mind is going. Mine is going. And so the last thing, and I always ask this because it's so important for people to understand who you are. And if you can describe those 3 words, what would it be? Who is Riecy G in 3 words?
I am dedicated to the people in my life, my family. You know, I am committed, hardworking. You know, I'm just Riecy. I'm just
Gotta do one more word. Riecy. Dedicated, committed.
Loving.
I was getting ready to say it. I was gonna say it, folks. Loving, because I know that about you. Wow. Riecy, it has been a pleasure.
It has been a pleasure as well.
Goodness.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you for featuring me as well on your show for Women's History Month.
You've been doing your thing for so many years, and I look up to you in this space. Because you have been doing this for so long.
You know, to give you a hug. Come on, girl. We got to get, but no, listen, we got to do this the right way. Yes. Thank you so much. Listen, folks, you heard it right here. Riecy G, #1 on-air personality, midday, Z93 Jams. You can go to her email, which is reecyg@z93jams.com. You can also go to Facebook, that's Riecy G. LinkedIn is Riecy G. IG is Riecy G. Listen, this is Riecy G, folks. And so if you want to learn anything more about Riecy, please check her out. Z93 Jams, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Z93 Jams right here in Charleston, South Carolina. And we're in the Dream Studio. And I want to I can't do anything without saying thank you to Apostle Vincent Simmons and Apostolic Life Ministries. Dream Studio is located on the campus, the Kingdom campus. And I tell you what, you all have to come and see it and be a part of it. And I want to thank him and thank Pastor Belinda and all my church family. That's all I'm going to say about that. Thank you all so much. Listen, I want to thank you folks for always tuning in to Tammy right here on the YouTube channel, the Tammy TV Show YouTube channel. I want to thank our producer, Alicia. Want to thank, of course, Willie. Can't do it without you, senior associate producer. Couldn't do it without you. We cheering you on, Willie. Thank you so much. You know, I always say, let's be a blessing to somebody today and every day. Don't forget, next week, we've got another phenomenal woman coming on. I want you to meet her, Shanika Aiken. When I tell you, Shanika has a story.
Oh, wow.
A story. So I look forward to seeing you all next week. But remember, be a blessing to somebody today and every day. Don't forget to call that person up, send them some love, let them know you love them, that you care about them, and that you're thinking about them. Until the next time, take care of yourself. Bye-bye.